Namaskar everyone. This is Dr. Deepthi Variku, Department of Physiotherapy, Dolphin PG Institute of Biomedical and Natural Sciences. Our today's topic is the continuation in resistance exercises. So today we will be discussing about the determinants of strengthening. So, the determinants of strengthening are basically those things which we have to focus before prescribing strengthening or resistance exercises to a patient or our client. So, the basic determinants are alignment of the segments of the body, the stabilization that we give to proximal or distal parts, the intensity of the exercise, the volume which we decide to be prescribed, the exercise order, the frequency, that is the number of sessions of the exercise, then the allotted rest interval, then the duration of the exercise program, then which mode of exercise we have to give, velocity of the exercise, then periodization, that is variations of intensity and volume during specific periods of resistance training, and the integration of exercises into functional activities, how we use the exercises that approximate or replicate functional demands. So let us discuss about these determinants. So first we'll discuss about stabilization. Stabilization is important to maintain appropriate alignment and to make sure that the correct muscle action and movement pattern is achieved. By giving this stabilization, we avoid unwanted or any kind of substitute movements which our patient can perform during the resistance exercises. Body weight may also provide a source of stabilization. The body weight of the patient is very important. Now we have mainly two types of stabilizations: external stabilizations and internal stabilizations. External stabilization can be applied manually by the therapist, and internal stabilization is achieved by the isometric contraction of the adjacent muscle groups that does not enter into the movement pattern. The external stabilization can be achieved by belts, straps, or some firm surfaces, and the internal stabilization is very importantly what we importantly use is the body segments, its attachments, and the muscle forces. The second thing which is very important as a determinant is the intensity. The intensity of exercise in a resistance training program is the amount of resistance which is imposed on the contracting muscle during each repetition of an exercise. So we can have two types of intensities. First is the submaximal loading, where the exercise is given at moderate to low intensities. It may indicated when at the beginning of the exercise program, where we want to evaluate the patient's response towards the exercise, or we can give it in the early stages of soft tissue healing, when the injured tissue must be protected from overloading. After periods of immobilization, when the articular cartilage is not able to withstand large compressive forces, it can also be given. For most children or older adults, when the goal of exercise is to improve the muscle endurance, we prescribe submaximal loading. Submaximal loading is a very important component of the warm up and cool down before and after the sessions. During this slow velocity isokinetic training can be given to minimize the compressive forces on the joints. Now, next one is the near maximal or maximal loading. These are the high intensity exercises, and they are mainly indicated when the goal of the exercise is to increase the muscle strength and power. For other healthy adults in the advanced phases of rehabilitation, these exercises are also included, mainly after a musculoskeletal injury, in preparation for returning to high demand occupational or recreational activities, in a conditioning program for individuals with no known pathologies, for individuals training for competitive weightlifting or bodybuilders. For the bodybuilders, if they are coming to you for rehabilitation in the advanced rehabilitation phase near maximal or maximal loading is used. The next determinant is volume. In the resistance training, the volume of exercise is the summation of total number of repetitions and sets of a particular exercise during a single exercise session on multiple resistance used. So, in this we can see what we are changing are the repetitions and the sets. The repetitions are the number of repetitions in a dynamic exercise program. It refers to the number of times a patient's particular movement is repeated. More specially, we can say that the number of muscle contractions achieved could also be included in repetitions. We use here a term called as RM. RM is the repetition maximum. It gives you the maximum number of repetitions a patient can perform with a given definite load. The next thing here is the sets. A predetermined number of repetitions grouped together are known as sets, or we also call them as bouts. After each set of a specific number of repetitions, there is a brief interval which we call as rest interval. So DLOM's early studies about 63 to 65 studies, they tell that 3 sets of 10 repetition maximum performed for 10 repetitions over the training period leads to gain in the strength. So we can say that these repetition maximum and sets, they provide a very vital role in increasing the strength of a muscle. Next is the duration. The exercise duration is the total number of weeks or months during which a resistance exercise program is carried out. Next is frequency. In a resistance exercise program, the frequency refers to the number of exercise sessions per day or per week. For example, we can say that you have to perform 3 sets of exercises every day for 3 days per week for 6 weeks. Like this is the frequency of the exercise. The greater the intensity and volume of the exercise, the more time is needed between the exercise sessions to recover from the temporary fatiguing effects of exercise. So rest interval is very important. We also call it as recovery period because it is a critical element of resistance training program. It is very necessary to allow time for the body to recuperate from the acute effects of exercise, which basically are associated with muscle fatigue or offset adverse responses. Like we will see in our coming lectures, a very acute response of the fatigue, that is delayed onset of muscle soreness, which we call as DOMS. The higher the intensity, the longer should be the rest interval. For moderate intensity trainings, like a 2 or 3 minutes rest interval is okay. A shorter rest interval is adequate for low intensity exercises. Longer rest interval are appropriate for high intensity exercises. Next determinant is the mode of exercise. Now the mode of exercise also encompasses the form of resistance. So here we could use a static resistance, dynamic resistance. Static resistance mainly is used in isometric form of exercises, and dynamic resistance is mainly used in isotonic form of exercises. One more type of exercise which we use nowadays very frequently are the isokinetic mode of exercises. So this is the basic chart, the muscle performance. Here we focus to increase strength, power and endurance. So these are the 3 basic types of mode of contractions we would like to need to increase the performance of the muscle. We'll go in detail in the later slides. First, let us discuss about the periodization of the exercise. The periodization, also known as periodized training, is an approach to resistance training that builds systemic variations in exercise intensity and repetition sets or frequencies at regular intervals over a specific period of time. This approach to training was developed for highly trained athletes preparing for competitive weightlifting or powerlifting events. So here you can see the basic characteristics of the periodized training. So first thing is when we prepare. While we prepare, the intensity is kept low. So what we give here is high number of repetitions and more exercise sessions, more frequencies. Then when we go for competition, the load becomes high. So higher load exercises are given where there is decreased repetition and sets, fewer exercise per session, less frequency exercises per day per week. Then we go for recuperation where gradual decrease in exercise load is used and additional decrease in repetition sets and number of exercises with frequency is induced. When a non-weight bearing position is assumed and the distal segment moves freely, this is the open chain exercises which we will use. When the weight bearing position is assumed and the body moves over a fixed digital segment, we call it as closed chain exercises. It is very important. In our later classes and lectures, we'll be dealing with these open chain exercises and closed chain exercises. Next determinant is the velocity of exercise. The velocity at which a muscle contracts significantly affects the tension that the muscle produces and subsequently affects muscular strength and power. As the velocity of muscle shortening increases, the force muscle can generate decreases. During an eccentric contraction, as the velocity of active muscle lengthening increases, force production in the muscle initially also increases, but then quickly levels off. Resistance training with free weights is safe and effective. So basically we use this only. But we can use speed specific trainings in some successful rehabilitation programs. Here what we are currently using are the isokinetic trainings which use velocity spectrum rehabilitation regimes. We can also use plyometric trainings or stretch shortening drills. We will be focusing in these isokinetic trainings and plyometric trainings in our later sessions. Now, mode of the exercises. We know the types of resistance exercises could be isometric, isokinetic and isotonic, which could be further divided into concentric and eccentric. So let us first discuss about these consideration for the selection of mode of resistance exercises. First is based on the results of your examination and evaluation. Then you see the underlying pathology of the patient. Then what are your goals? What are your anticipations for the functional outcomes of the patients? Whether you need a manual or mechanical resistance, whether you need an equipment or there is any limitation present while you are performing the resistance exercises. So first type of exercises are the isometric exercises. The isometric exercise is a static form of exercise in which a muscle contracts and produces force without an appreciable change in the length of the muscle and without visible joint motion. Although there is no mechanical work done here, students, you have to remember it while we are performing the isometric exercise, as there is no distance traveled, therefore there is no mechanical work done. A measurable amount of tension and force output are produced. Sources for resistance for isometric exercises may include holding against a force, like if you are isometrically strengthening the shoulder retractors, you can just stand with the wall and try to push it with your elbow, which is abducted and flexed at the elbow. Now, this push and pull can be very much immovable in the isometric exercises. Now we see what the isometric basically does. Here you see there is enough force which will not allow you to move, but there is a contraction which is produced inside the muscle. So what are the rationales and the indications? To prevent or minimize muscle atrophy when joint movement is not possible, like patient is in casts, splints or skeletal tractions. To activate muscles while you want to facilitate the muscle firing, or you want to begin a new neuromuscular control over a muscle which is coming up for healing when joint movement is not advisable after any injury or surgery, there you can use isometric exercises. Isometrics are very effective for postural or joint stability. They are also helpful to improve muscle strength when use of dynamic exercises could compromise joint integrity or can cause pain. They are also help to develop static muscle strength at particular points in the range of motion consistent with specific task-related needs. Now, what are the different types of isometric exercises? First are the muscle setting exercises. The setting exercises involve low-intensity muscle contractions, which are performed against little to no resistance. They are used to decrease the muscle pain and spasm and to improve the relaxation and circulation after injury to soft tissues during the active phase of healing. For example, we do setting exercises for quadriceps, setting exercises for gluteal muscles. Because muscle setting is performed against no appreciable resistance, it does not improve muscle strength except in very, very weak muscles. Setting exercises can retard muscle atrophy and maintain mobility between muscle fibers when the muscle is in the phase of immobilization. Next exercises are the stabilization exercises. It is used to develop a submaximal but sustained level of core contraction to improve postural stability of a joint by means of mid-range isometric contractions, which are performed against resistance in anti-gravity positions and in weight-bearing postures, mainly if the weight-bearing is permissible. Body weight or manual resistance often are source of resistances here. Then we also perform multiple angle isometrics. It is a system of isometric exercises where resistance is applied manually or mechanically at multiple joint positions within the available range of motion. The goal of exercises is to improve strength throughout the range of motion when joint motion is permissible by dynamic resistance exercises is painful or inadvisable. Now, what are the effects of isometric exercises? First, the intensity of the muscle contraction increases. Duration of the muscle activation also gets affected. There are repetitive contractions which are being performed, and joint angles and mode specificity plays a very important role here. We have to maintain some precautions like to avoid potential injury to the contracting muscle. Apply and release the resistance gradually. Do not release the resistance aberrant. This helps to grade the muscle tension and ensures that the muscle contraction is pain-free. There are few contraindications like high intensity isometric exercises may be contraindicated for patients with a history of cardiac and vascular disorders. The next exercises are the dynamic exercises, the isotonic exercises. A dynamic muscle contraction causes joint movement and excursion of a body segment as the muscle contracts and shortens. We can perform it in two types. When we use the shortening of the muscle, it is the concentric contraction, or lengthening under tension, that is the eccentric contraction. So concentric exercises refers to a form of dynamic muscle loading where tension in a muscle develops and physical shortening of the muscle occurs, like as when lifting a weight. Then eccentric exercises involve dynamic loading of a muscle beyond its force producing capacity, causing physical lengthening of the muscle as it attempts to control the load, like when we try to lower the load. During concentric and eccentric exercise, resistance can be applied in several ways. A constant resistance could be applied, a weight machine could be used, or an isokinetic device could be used. So here you can see the difference between the isometric and the isotonic muscle contractions. In tonic, we are allowing the movement to occur. In isometric, the movement is not being allowed to occur. Now, what are the rationales for using concentric and eccentric exercises? Concentric muscle contraction accelerates body segments, whereas eccentric decelerates body segments. Eccentric contraction also acts as source of soft absorption during high impact activities. A combination of both actions is evident in countless tasks of daily living, like while we walk up, down, ascending, descending stairs, and these both could be used in various activities in our daily living. So what are the characteristics and effects of concentric and eccentric exercises? It comes mainly under the following headings: exercise load, velocity of exercise, energy expenditure, mode of exercise, cross-training, and exercise-induced muscle soreness. Precautions we have to take care, like there is greater stress on the cardiovascular system during eccentric exercises than concentric exercises, basically because greater load is used in eccentric training. Now the progression is done in the exercises with the determinants like this. For example, the first determinant, the intensity. Intensity we start with submaximal and then move to the maximal, like low load to high load. Then the body positioning, it could be depending on the pathology and impairments. and the goals of the rehabilitation program. Then the repetition and sets. Initially, we go for low volume and then we move to high volume. Frequency may be variable depending on the intensity. Contraction we start with a static contraction and then we go to dynamic contraction. Even in dynamic contraction, start with concentric and then move to eccentric exercises. Range of motions, short arc initially, then full arc exercises. Plane of movement, start with the uniplanar movements, then move to multiplanar movements. For example, the speed, slow speed, then move to the fast speed. Then neuromuscular control, you start the exercises with the proximal muscles first, then move to the distal muscles. Functional movement patterns, go for the simple, then go for the complex, like single joints to multiple joints. This will be the factors and how the progression of resistance training is performed. We have to maintain few precautions during the resistance training. Keep the ambient temperature of the exercise setting comfortable for vigorous exercises. Then caution the patient that pain should not occur during the exercise. Do not indicate resistance training at maximal levels of resistance because it can cause DOMS. Avoid use of heavy resistance during exercises. Do not apply resistance across an unstable or distal to a fracture site that is not completely healed. Have the patient avoid breath holding during the exercises, which they mainly do. This is to prevent Valsalva. Avoid uncontrolled ballistic movements as they compromise safety and effectiveness. Prevent incorrect or substitute motions by adequate stabilizations. Avoid exercises that place excessive, unintended secondary stress on the back. Beware of medications of a patient. Take a chart on that. Make a chart what medications the patient is taking because they can have and they can alter acute and chronic responses to the exercise. Avoid cumulative fatigue due to excessive frequency of exercise and the effect of overtraining or overwork by incorporating adequate rest intervals between exercise sessions to allow adequate time for the recovery after exercise. Discontinue exercise if the patient experiences pain, dizziness, or unusual or precipitous shortness of breath. It is very important. Make sure you follow every precaution. That's about the determinants of the exercise. Hope you understood the lecture. If there are any queries, they are welcome. Thank you so much.